Welcome to the Byzantine Coin Podcast, where we celebrate and discuss all things numismatic from the Byzantine era of the Roman Empire. My name is Kyle Bolin, and this is episode 13. And today we are going to talk about the mystery of the lightweight solidi in Byzantine coinage. We're going to look at a couple of coins that have sold recently and a few that are about to auction. We're entering the slow summertime where there's just not as many auctions out there, but there's a few interesting things going on, and I wanted to highlight a few of them here. So, with that, let's get started and take a look at some coins that have recently auctioned. First off, this was at MDC Monaco, and they had a number of great Byzantine coins there. This is a Constantine IV fine style edition. This is in a choice mint state 5 of 5 holder. This is a beautiful coin. It had, a little bit of, I don't know, a little bit of smudging in the portrait around the eye, but other than that, I mean, it's a pretty flawless coin. There's some weakness in the plume on the helmet as well, and on the reverse, it's nice. But this went for 3,000 euro, which I thought was a pretty strong price for the type. I mean, all in, once you get this back to the US, you're looking at like 41 or $4,200 with the exchange rate and the buyer's premiums and the shipping and everything else, right? So, a nice coin. I think the holder certainly helped it, because I don't think if it was in that holder, it wouldn't have gotten close to that kind of money. But overall, a beautiful coin and a pretty strong price. Next up, this is a Justinian II first reign solidus with a portrait of Christ on the obverse and a portrait of Emperor Justinian II standing on the reverse. This was a really nice one too. We profiled this in a previous podcast. They had a starting price of 10,000 euro, and that's what it went for. I thought that starting price was high. I mean, yes, it's a choice mint state 5 of 5 holder. I think I probably would have started this out maybe at 5,000 euro and maybe see if I can get some emotional bidding happening on it. I mean, it is a really, really nice coin. But at 10,000 euro, that's with their buyer's premium, I mean, I think all in getting that to the US with the exchange rate, I mean, you're probably at 14 or $15,000, which I suppose is about right, for something like this. But yeah, not really any kind of bidding on it with such a high starting price, but a lovely, lovely coin. I mean, you look at that great portrait of Christ, little die break there, no big deal. Full legends on either side. Very rarely do you see on these the Conop and the Officina letter on the exerg of the reverse, and this one has a full legend and a full Conop and Officina number. So outstanding coin, expensive. These are always expensive and always in high demand. Next up, Eleontius, and this one was in a choice mint state 4 of 5 holder. This is an interesting coin because it's an interesting portrait style, a little different than some of the standard. It's off center slightly, but overall really nice. And it's a very interesting Officina letter combination here, as you have a theta and an alpha, it looks like. So that's somewhat rare as well. But looking at it here, that's 3,400 euros that recognized. So again, that's probably 4,600 dollars once it gets to the United States. That's a lot of money for this coin. I think that I mean, I've had choice mint state holder coins and they went for like 17 or $1,800. So these can get bid up. And this one is sort of nice, but this was a very strong price, I thought, for this coin, especially given the fact that it was slightly off center. I really like this one. I was watching it. Um, this is a Justinian II Solidus of his second reign with a Syrian portrait of Christ, and on the reverse, the emperor and his son Tiberius are shown. I think this had great details, nice toning. It was in an extra fine 405 clipped holder, and it went for 2,600 euro, which probably is about 3,600 dollars, which is sort of right where I would expect this to sort of go for. The cool thing about this was it had pre-1970 provenance to the Sir Charles Oman collection from Christie's in 1968. So it has a great pedigree, one that you don't typically see a lot of these come to market with a great pedigree like that. So I think that this was a fair price, a very good price um, for both the consigner and for the buyer. So um, nice coin. Surprised it didn't go even a little higher, to be honest, but it didn't. It was, I think, in the wrong holder. Next coin. This one, I really love this coin. And in retrospect, I should have bid on it because this went cheap. I thought this went cheap. Um, this is a Justinian the First, Solidus of Thessalonica, of I think, a fine style of the type. Um, yeah, it had some graffiti on the reverse field, and apparently, looking at this in French, had said it has a ding or a punch mark. I'm assuming on the reverse here underneath the C at between, let's say, 3 and 5 o'clock. But I mean, it's just a beautiful coin. It's got some wear, a little bit of wear, and but it's really beautiful and example wise. And the fact that this only got 1,200 euro, that's a steal for this coin, in my opinion. I feel like this is a $2,500 coin. Um, so great purchase for whoever got it. That's awesome. Moving on to Loy. Loy recently did their feature auction, and they had 8 or 9 Byzantine coins there. But they're all of really exceptional quality, and Loy always commands a very strong bid for their offerings. This is a Heraclius. I call these three king solidi. This is with his two sons flanking him, Constantine III and Heraclonus, and well centered, even some decent margins. You got some of the rings on the edge there. Well centered on the reverse, really nice. They wrote virtually as struck. I can't argue with them. These are very common, but to get one in such nice condition, I think would command a premium. And 1,500 Swiss francs for this, I think, is a strong price. I mean, over for US dollars, that's well over $2,000. It's like $2,200 for this, $2,300 for this. So I think that this is deserving of that price. This is a nice example. Next from Loy, we have this Constantine IV from Syracuse. Um, this was part of the Dr. Hans Ulrich Geiger collection that Loy auctioned off in 2024. And this has a provenance to pre-1970. It says it was bought from Frank Sternberg in June of 1969 and has the original ticket with that as well, which I think is very cool. This went for 3,000 Swiss francs. That's right around sort of what I expected it to go. I thought it might even go a little higher given the pedigree. The coin itself is nice. It's got a little wear here and there and stuff. It looks like some die breaks on the reverse, but you have a nice coin with most of the legends. So yeah, I think that 3,000 Swiss francs, let's see, all in, the exchange rates are just killers right now for if you're a buyer in the US. Let's see, that would be 36 and then another 20. Yeah. So that'd be over 4,300 dollars probably once it got to you. So I could understand that, I guess. But it's a nice coin and it's rare that you see one with any kind of pre-1970 pedigree. Another Leontius. This one, I think, arguably nicer than the one that sold at MDC. Uh, well centered, full legends. Not any kind of real weakness except maybe in the Victoria. A great portrait, expressive portrait. There might be a little scratch here and there, but overall, that's about as nice as they come. And they said virtually as struck. Can't argue with them. That's really nice. No pedigree at all on this from a European collection formed before 2005. So no pedigree. And it realized 2,600 Swiss francs. Now I think the one from MDC was 3,400 euro. So this went a little bit. I mean, the franc is stronger than the euro right now, but this went for a little bit less, I think. And I think arguably the nicer coin. I don't know that it would get a choice mint state grade from NGC, but you know, I don't care as much about that. Next coin. Philippicus Vadans. It is a Solidus, 4.36 grams, so it's slightly underweight. But this is the whole coin is on the flan. You've got full legends all the way around on either side. Only a little weakness in the Victoria. Overall, this is a really, really nice portrait and a nice coin. This went for strong money. 6,500 Swiss francs. I mean, it's tough to get these with full legends and as nice as this, but if you submitted this to NGC, you're gonna get it clipped if you care about these things. I think you'd be hard pressed to get your money back if you went to go and resell this, but maybe I'm wrong. There was no provenance on this either to really drive home the value on it. So 6,500 Swiss francs is an outstanding result for the consigner. That's a lot of money for this coin. And jumping back to MDC, we have this Anastasius the First Solidus, and I really dig the style on this. It's a really nice style. This only went for it's mint state 405 clipped, 4.33 grams. But this only went for 900 euro. I think that was a really good price for this for the buyer. I really dig this coin, actually. Look at that style. It's it's almost like they're showing him as a boy. Of course, the guy was like 65 when he took over, or 70 or something like that. I mean, so it's not an accurate representation of him, but it's just got a nice kind of style to it, and the strike is outstanding as well. I mean, there's a little weakness in Victory's head on the reverse, but overall, I think this is a really nice coin. And they call it clipped and brushed. Brushed, like I said in other podcasts previously, I think brushed is a nothing burger. All coins are brushed, all coins are cleaned. There might be some heavy scratches, but I think it's a dumb notation. I think they really should just, if you got a problem with the surfaces, maybe ding the surface grade by one letter. But brushed, oh man, I remember when brushed was coming out for like sort of the first time, or you're starting to see a lot of these things get graded as brushed, and people avoided them like they were gonna catch something if they touched them. I mean, it was bad. You could pick up some really really nice coins cheap if they were in a brushed holder. But this I think went cheap too. But it's underweight as well. But I don't see any part of this that is clipped. There's no part of the coin that's missing. So maybe it's just an underweight flan. Anyway, 900 euros is a good price for the buyer. Continuing on to MDC, we have Constance the Second. This is, well, sometimes these are referred to as Constantine the Third because of the Conop K on things. I don't subscribe to that. I mean, Constantine the Third ruled for like 9 months, and chances are he probably did mint coins of his own, but his name was Constantine, his son's name was Constantine. Um, some people attribute these with the smaller head and the K to Constantine the Third. Again, there's nothing that you can really point to that's evidence of this. As far as I'm concerned, this is Constance the Second. This is 4.38 grams. It had damage on it. I don't know what the damage was, but this went for 800 euros. I thought that that was a good price, and overall, it was a nice portrait on things. But that is one of the mysteries is, Constantine III ruled for almost a year and no coins attributed to him. Or some are attributed to him, but there's no evidence of them actually being his. So it's all conjecture. This is also had provenance 1974, which is pretty cool. Ex Sternberg, November 1974. Yeah, I thought I thought this was a good price for this coin. Okay, moving on to coins that are coming up for auction now. This one recently just hit. This is Maison RC, and we talked about this auction house in a previous podcast where they had a couple different coins that cited Hunt provenance, and then I went and checked, and they weren't the same coins as the one as the Hunt in the Hunt catalog, so they did not have Hunt provenance. I did email them about this. They never took it down. This one, they've got some cool coins in this one, but this one is my favorite. This is a rare bird. This is a Constance II Solidus from Rome. And Constance II was the last Roman emperor to visit Rome. He went there while campaigning in Italy and visited Rome, and the Pope received him. He also had a Pope arrested at one point and exiled to Kherson. The Byzantine emperor still carried quite a bit of weight in Italy at the time, and he was the last Byzantine Roman emperor to visit Rome. Um, these are very rare. Um, and this is in decent shape. It's got a 1,500 euro starting price. We'll see where it goes. I'll be watching it. I do have some concerns about the auction house. I mean, I'm sure they're very legitimate. I don't want to, I don't want to denigrate them too much. But just looking at this, I mean, they got the attribution right, but they don't cite any sources. They don't cite Sear, they don't cite MIB, they don't cite Dumbarton Oaks, they don't cite anything. It's just that's where they are. This is like I said, I don't think I've ever seen one of these come to market. There's none in coin archives. So I could see this going very high, or I could see this just sort of staying where it's at just because of the uncertainty around the auction house. I don't know. I will be watching it. I would like to own this coin, but we'll see. Let's go to numismatic Naumann. This is something you don't see every day. This is a gold bulla of two solidi from Basil II. Um, Bullas were ceremonial. They were often given out to people or as a reward or to high officials that you wanted to shower with gifts. You gave them a gold bulla, and it's of two solid. Now this isn't a very good one, so I don't know if this was actually given to anybody or if this is just in the reject pile or what. It's off center. It's a bad weird weak strike, and then it's got all sorts of weird scuffs and stuff going on with it. They got it started at $8,000. I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't get a bid, but wanted to highlight it because you don't see these come to auction almost ever. I mean, so maybe it'll get a bid. I don't know. I don't think it's got the wow factor that it's a bullet, but it doesn't have any kind of visual wow factor. It just looks like a junky beat up gold coin. So we'll see. I'll be interested to see where this goes. I'll be watching this. This one is also from, I think this is Naumann as well. The Heraclius. Oh no, I'm sorry. This isn't Naumann. It's by Savoca. This is a Tiberius the Third, Tremesis, 1.41 grams, 14 millimeters. What a lovely portrait. And this is very rare. You don't see these come up very often. I love this coin. I'd love to own this coin. Starting price is a little high, but I'm sure it's worth every bit of that and probably more. I'll be watching this one. Again, these don't come up very often. This is a nice shape. A nice portrait for such a small coin. I really like this one. Finally, this is also in Savoca. This was in a Hirsch auction a little while ago, and it passed because I think it had an 8,000 euro starting price or something like that. But we highlighted this. I believe is a forgery. I think this is a modern forgery. The style does not correspond to any of the other types of Constantine the Seventh, which is a rare coin. I think it's got sort of a fantasy style to it. This I would not bless this as real, and just kind of warning you guys about this. I don't know if anybody's gonna bid on this. It's got a starting price of 4,000 euro, but I would say that this is not real. Then Harlan Burke dropped their most recent buyer bid sale, and they had some good Byzantine gold in there. They got some Byzantine bronze as well. But one of the things I wanted to highlight is, you see a couple of these things sold fast. I don't know when this drops. I don't get notifications on it for some reason. But I mean, look at this Anastasia sold us $585. The amount of gold that's in there at spot right now is about $487. So you basically spent $98 for a coin that is 1,500 years old and it's got sort of a unique, nice style to it. I think that's a great deal. I think if you can get any of these things right now with the way gold is priced at 600 or under, you're stealing it. It's a great buy. Now, these aren't perfect coins. They've got some issues and stuff on it, but I mean, you look at the Justin II or this Heraclius. I mean, they're not perfect. They're definitely VF, coins, but man, I don't. It's you can just get these so cheap sometimes, and I feel like you could get these at the same price like 5 or 6 years ago when gold was half the price it is now. So there hasn't been a lot of, if it's sort of mediocre to nice Byzantine gold, there hasn't been a lot of price appreciation on it. And honestly, with the gold going up there, it's been almost depreciation on some of these. But I think these are great deals. I think whoever bought these, because there's no buyer premium on that. It's just you buy it and they ship it to you. And it's like, I feel like you could go around and flip these and make a couple $100 if you wanted to. So yeah, I missed those. I didn't buy them. They were already sold by the time I saw the sale, which no surprise there. There was one other coin I wanted to highlight, and it is this Isaac Komnenos Histamenon. It's really nice. I don't know. I was sort of taken by it, and if you look at the video on it, the video really sets it off. It's got great toning. Look at the details on that. It's a beautiful coin. Um, I mean, I would love to own it. Now, $3,000 is a strong price for this. They do go for this much, and especially in this kind of quality. So, um, it's not out of the ballpark. But I'll be watching this one. I really like the way this looks. Um, and we'll see what happens with this one. But you just don't see it's just got a nice sheen and tone to it that you can tell it's been in an old collection for a long time. I think they said it is 4.39 grams, and they said FTC. Can't argue with that. Ex Grapevine collection. Don't know that collection at all, but I'll have to do some research on that. And then they bought it from Nick Economopoulos, Numismatics, which I wish I had bought it from him if I had seen it, but I haven't been to a show lately. So, uh, yeah, I'll be watching this. I love this coin. And here I've got a bunch of them. I mean, you can see, sometimes this one went for $3,600. This one went for 32. These aren't recent though, 14, 12, 19, 12, so um, you can get ones that aren't nearly as nice for 800, $700, and on up to like 1,500 and stuff like that. But 3,000, it better be one of the best, and it looks like it might be. So, so those are the coins I wanted to highlight today and talk about that have sold recently or that have are coming to auction. Now I want to shift gears and talk about lightweight solidi. And nobody understands why all of a sudden you started to have coins that were the exact same size as a regular weight solidi circulate in tandem, um, um, with the regular solidi. I mean, it's strange. It's a historic mystery. Nobody knows. There's a lot of theories, and we'll go into those theories, and we're going to take a look at those coins. But um, the main reference work on this is by Howard Adelson, and it was written in 1957. And it's got great information. There's been a couple good videos on these, and papers written on these as well. And again, there's a lot of theories whether they were minted for trade, paying off adversaries, and passing off later weight coins to pay off you know, uh, different groups outside the empire. Um, there's a lot of theories. I have my own theory. My theory on these is that they were purposely minted, to pay certain officials or take advantage of exchange imbalances, when changing coins, and taking that imbalance as an advantage for the state. That's my guess. Now, I think all the other theories that kind of come with it are, I guess, because of other factors, right? I don't think that they were made specifically for trade. I mean, one of the things you have to remember is Byzantines didn't care about trade that much, or they cared about trade, but their economy and their coinage was minted specifically for one purpose, and that was to pay the army and pay officials, and then it trickles down to farmers, and then the farmers pay the land tax. And the land tax goes back to Constantinople, and that's how their system worked. So these coins were minted for those purposes and not specifically to drive trade. Trade was secondary. And you also had, from a trade perspective, you had semesis and tremesis that were, um, one half of a solidi and one third of a solidi. So it's interesting that they started making these things. And by the way, they call them out on the faces, on the face value of it, because they're marked differently than other solidi. So they definitely had a value, and the value was, depending on the time frame, 20 silica, 22 silica, or 23 silica, and what a full solidus was supposed to be 24 silica. And one thing you have to remember about the Byzantine economy is it was a sort of a closed circuit. It was a closed loop. You had this circle where money would flow from the capital to officials and the army. The army would use that money to buy stuff from artisans and food and everything else. And then it would go down to those people to pay their taxes back to the capital. And that had been the cycle since time immemorial. I mean, that's one of the reasons why the Byzantine Empire did so well, is that, um, this had always been the case. I mean, your great grandparents sent their money to Constantinople. Your parents sent their money to Constantinople. Your kids will send their money to Constantinople, and on it went. So it's a tradition almost, right? And it was a closed loop. Money was not supposed to leave the empire. Now, certainly it did, right? You had outflows that went, for trade. You had outflows that went to pay off adversaries, whether it's Muslims or the Avars, or different groups. But remember, when you're paying off most of those groups, yeah, they'll keep some of the gold and there'll be a local economy, but a lot of times they're going back to the borders to buy stuff from the empire. So that gold, some of that gold is coming back into the system. Then you also had gold mines. You had gold mines in Egypt that added gold. You had gold mines, in Carthage, once Carthage was recaptured, that added gold. So it was a you had stuff gold coming in, and then you had gold coming out, but most of it kind of stayed in this closed loop system to continue to pay taxes and pay the army, etc. And that's how the Byzantine economy worked. Now, gold could be changed in for bronze or silver too. They did use some silver. It wasn't as prevalent as it was in the earlier Roman Empire. And a lot of silver was either exported out of the empire or was taken and turned and melt down for church plate or candlesticks or different religious objects, right? And so silver was tightly controlled by the state as well. You have the bronze exchange rate that was fixed, and that, of course, changed year over year, emperor to emperor, depending on what's going on. I mean, you have to remember we're talking about a history that spans almost from the 400s to 1453. Money and its value is always going to change. I mean, you think about what you would pay, what you could buy for a dollar now, then like when I was a kid, what a dollar would buy, or when my parents were kids, what a dollar would buy. And that's only, we're talking about, a 50 or 60 year stretch. And yes, I know it's fiat money. It's not gold, right? But at the same time, exchange rates and purchasing power fluctuates year over year. So it's difficult to sort of say, yeah, it was worth this and you get this. And it fluctuated, even though it was highly regulated, it fluctuated throughout the empire. And as we'll see, certain areas had different weight standards going forward on things. So I think the Solidus, the lightweight Solidus was made to pay some sort of official or to fill some sort of gap in the monetary system. And you'll see most of these came out of Constantinople. I mean, you can start the first lightweight Solidus was minted by Justinian the First, and 12 years into his reign, he switched the coinage up from the three-quarter bust to the facing bust with Ptolemy's. Um, and that's where we start to see the first lightweight solidi. So around let's say 539 is when that happened. So and there's theories that hey, it was had to do with the West and they were minted because they retook Carthage and then they stopped minting them when Carthage fell, or when they had pulled out of Italy. And I think again, those aren't the reasons why they minted it. I think that they became popular there because it was easier for exchange rates with the silver that the barbarian kingdoms were using. So, they've found hordes of these outside of the empire, and that sort of led to this theory that they were used specifically for trade. But in any kind of situation where you're sending gold over, it's going to be a weighed transaction typically. And I think it was just they became popular in the West and easier to do for trade purposes. But I don't think that's the reason they were minted. And again, you'll see, we'll go through here. These are the first ones from Justinian. Justinian created this, and Justinian retook Carthage, Sicily, and parts of Italy, and the monetary system and the mints sort of bloomed with it. You had a mint now in Ravenna, a mint in Sicily, a mint in Carthage. Um, and Carthage sort of did its own thing. They had regular solidi of regular shape, and they got smaller and smaller, but the weight stayed the same. And they got sort of almost globular, is what they're referred to, and that has to do with the sub-Saharan gold trade and the way that the gold was shipped from like Timbuktu and stuff like that. And then you had these mints in Sicily and Ravenna and Rome minting coins, but they didn't mint any lightweight solidi. All the lightweight solidi came from the capital. So you're minting coins to pay the army in Italy and pay the army in Sicily, but you're not minting any lightweight coins. So all the lightweight coins are coming from the capital. So you would think that if it had to do with trade in Carthage or it had to do with trade in Italy, that they would have minted them there out of expediency. They did not. And we'll see here, these three here are Justinian lightweight solidity. The OB star plus star represents a solidus of 22 siliqua. And roughly that's 4.15 grams, 4.1 gram. I mean, the weight standard on all these is got some fluctuation. The OB plus star is another variant of that of sorry, OB plus star and OBXX are solidi of 20 silica. So you had a solidi worth, and they're like 3.8 grams roughly. So you had a system where you had a 22 carat, not carat, carat's probably not the right word, 22 siliqua solidi and a 20 siliqua solidi. And all of these are fairly rare. Um, there's not a huge price jump on these, but they are sort of on the rare side. The OB star plus star for Justinian is very rare. But Justinian kind of kicked it off. And then moving on to Justin II, Justin II continued this. Here we have the first one is an OB star plus star. It's a solidus of 22 silica. And it's a rare piece with the beard of mourning is what they got. You can see the stubble on the emperor's face, which is the only time you've seen that in at least the coins of the Byzantine era. Um, that's a rare one. I actually used to own that one. I did auction it off, but it is a rare one. And then there's another one here without the beard. The same thing. It's a 22 silica. These are pretty common. Um, without the beard, you can get these, for the same price as you get a Solidus between 800 and $1,000 for a nice one, I would think. The OB double X is definitely rarer. Um, and and that is a solidus of 20 silica. And OB stands for gold. I can't remember what it's Obrazia, and then XX is 20. Um, Now you'll notice the on the Officina letters is theta sigma, theta sigma. A lot of times in earlier reference works, like old reference works, I should say, they will place these at Thessalonica because of the last two Officina letters corresponding with like a Thessalonica. But modern scholarship has said that these were not minted in did I say Thessalonica? I'm sorry. Old old references will place these in Antioch for Theophilus. Theopolis is what Antioch was called. But modern scholarship has sort of changed that and said these came from the capital. And they're dye wise, they're the same as the stuff that comes from the capital. What's interesting is this is a super rare one from Justin II. This is a solidus of 20 siliqua, but it's from Alexandria. Now, this is the first one. This is super rare. I want to say this is probably unique. Um, this shows that lightweight solidi were being minted in the provinces, but specifically in Alexandria. Now, there wasn't a lot of trade happening with outsiders in Alexandria. Alexandria was sort of a fixed system, and it added a lot of money, a lot of grain, and a lot of production into the empire, but there wasn't a lot of outside trade there. So, why they would make a lightweight solidus in Alexandria and not in places where there was a lot of contact and trade, I think that points to the fact that this was minted to pay a certain type of official or something along those lines. Moving on from Justin II, we have Tiberius II. Um, the 20 siliqua solidus of Tiberius II, OBXX, these are very rare. And then the 22 siliqua solidi OB plus star and the exerg. Those are much more common, and you can get those fairly reasonably. But again, we have a coin here that is a product of the Alexandria Mint, and that's only due to recent scholarship. Previously, they put this in Sicily, and this was all over the place. But style-wise, Hahn places these at Alexandria, and I agree with him. But you have a solidus in the exurg that says Conx, Conxx, and that's a solidus of 20 siliqua, again from Alexandria. And that's super rare. I mean, you just don't find them that. Now, just because it's rare doesn't mean they didn't mint a lot of them. It's just a lot of them have never been found or they were melted down. So there's not a lot of them in existence, but there are a few. Continue on to Maurice Tiberius. Um, Maurice, when it was a general that was adopted by Tiberius II as a son, and he took the name Tiberius Maurice, and his first coins say Tiberius Maurice on them, with the helmet, and this is a very rare one of 22 silica. They didn't make these very long before they switched it over to Maurice Tiberius, which is the one here that you see in a slab. That's from the Knobloch collection. That's also very rare. You just don't see them very often. That recently auctioned. And then you go to this one here at the bottom left, and that is a solidus of 23 siliqua. And you can denote that it is because of the star in the field by the emperor. And this is the first time a 23 siliqua lightweight solidus shows up. And you also see here on the bottom right a 22 siliqua solidus of the emperor in his standard helmet with plume. And that is these are very common. Both of the two on the bottom are very common coins. You can get them very inexpensively, for gold anyway. But the reason for the 23 silica solidus, nobody knows why that was introduced and come into play, but it will continue to. This is also a solidus of 20 silica of Maurice, but this one is also from the Alexandria Mint again. It's this CONXX version, exceptionally rare. Again, showing that these were minted in provincial mints, but not very much. But again, why would you mint something for trade in Alexandria like this? It just doesn't make any sense. Now, supposedly there was a couple of these similar types that were minted in Ravenna under the last two emperors. I couldn't find any pictures of them, but I think that you'll find that these were minted in some of the provincial mints. I mean, there is nothing lightweight on record from anything in Carthage. And yeah, so it's it's a mystery for sure, but it's a fascinating one. Continuing on to Phocas. Phocas rebelled against Maurice, took his army to Constantinople, took the city, killed Maurice's entire family except his oldest son, and Maurice had to watch him do it, and then he killed Maurice. Nasty. Um, Phocas continued on with the 23 siliqua type, which is at the bottom of this, with the star in the field on both the obverse and the reverse. These are rare. They didn't do it very long. They continued to do the 22 siliqua OB plus star solidi, and then 20 silica solidi, which are also very rare at OBXX. And it's yeah, I'm not sure why the 23 silica are very rare, but there's just not a lot of them that are known. So it's interesting. Again, it's tough to make assumptions on things based on existing solidi because they could have minted a lot of these things and we just haven't found a lot of them, or they were all melted down. You just don't know. Moving on to Heraclius. Heraclius and his father was the exarch of Carthage. He launched a revolt against Focus 9 years into Focus, 8 years into Focus's reign. His cousin took Alexandria, and they got on a fleet and went right to Constantinople and deposed Focus. His earlier Solidi, he kept all the same. He's got a 20 silica version, a 22 silica version, and a 23 silica version. One of them, a super rare one, is instead of saying Conob, it says CXNXB as a 23 silica one. And you'll find, Hercules has a lot of different styles, and you'll find all of these sort of prevalent in just about every single style that he had, whether it's him and his son, or him and his and both of his sons. There are lightweight solid eye of all of them. To continue on to Constans the Second. This is Heraclius's grandson, and it's funny. We know of them. Well, put it this way. There are a lot of lightweight solid eye of Constance II floating around. Whether he produced more than others, I don't know, but we have a lot of them that have survived. So they're fairly easy to get. The BOGK, the OB is switched around, and the GK is supposed to be represent 23. And yeah. It's nice. They're a little bit rare, but not that much. Constance the Second produced a lot of coins, and a lot of them survived. The other 23 type of 23 silica solidus that he produced has a big star in the field of the reverse. There is also the exceptionally rare 20 silica piece. It says BOXX on it. Um, but Constance the Second. I think he's an underrated emperor, to be honest. He withstood these constant hammer blows from the caliphate, and then I don't know why he decided to move his capital to Syracuse, but he moved his capital to Syracuse for like the last 6 years of his life, and then he was eventually assassinated, and his son in Constantinople took over, Constantine IV. So you'll notice here we missed Constantine IV. So Constantine IV, you'll start to see the weight of most solid eye produced start to decrease. Um, and there are not, I mean, there are almost none uh, lightweight solid eye produced under his reign. Well, put it this way, there's two of them known, and they're both in the Hermitage in St. Petersburg in Russia. Um, so if not, to my knowledge, none of them have ever come to market. If one ever does, I'm sure it'll command big money. Um, but they did produce them under Constantine IV, but Constantine IV reformed the bronze coinage, and you also see that the weight standard in the West starts to go down because of the way trade worked. And that accelerated under Justinian II. And this is a solidus of 23 silica of Justinian II. And that's early in his reign. That's like when he was just taking over. He was 16 or so, 18 or so when this coin was minted. Um, and according to Dumbarton Oaks, Justinian II, the weight standard for solidi at Syracuse had already down to like 4.1 grams. Syracuse solidi from this time often exhibit clipping from flam preparation. The clipping should not be confused with what occurred in circulation. It was likely done at the mint to bring the weight down of these to the new standard. And Grierson wrote that in Dumbarton Oaks too. Um, that by the time of Justinian II, a different weight standard in the West had been adopted and maintained in subsequent reigns. And you'll see, I mean, solid eye of Syracuse in Italy typically come in at about 4 grams. And the Tremesis was extremely popular in Italy as well because it was the smallest gold coin, but it was easily it was much easier exchange wise with the silver that was being used in the West. Finally, these are the last of the lightweight solidi. Now, for the longest time, Justinian II was the last one. Tiberius III, there was one known of his lightweight solidi. And Seer listed as unique. I think there's about four of these out there right now. Um, and then Leontius didn't even have a seer. It was unpublished. And I think that's unique. There's only one known, and that's one. It was auctioned by Kunker. Um, and that's the coin. But these two coins represent the last of the Constantinople lightweight solidi. And when things stopped minting. Now, they did continue to influence things. So solidi minted in Italy here. See, this is a Tiberius III solidi. It's got the star on it. And you'll see this again and again with Italian and Sicilian solidi from the time because the weight standard was lower. I think that they continued to put a star on there because the lightweight solidi were so popular in trade in Italy at that time. And you see top left, Anastasius II. That's Anastasius II from Syracuse. Top right is let's see, Philippicus Bardans from Syracuse. Bottom left is Theodosius III from Naples, and bottom right is Theodosius III from Syracuse. All these have big stars in the field, just like their predecessors. So the lightweight solid, I think, because of its popularity in the West, um, influenced the design of these solidi. And they were typically came in at about 4 grams. Gold content was usually the same until you get to later on where you run into like Leo the Third. This is a highly debased. This is like Electrum, minted in Rome, coin of Leo the Third and his son Constantine the Fifth. But there you go. You got another big star in the reverse field. So the lightweight solid I don't think were minted for trade. I don't think it was minted because specifically for Italy. I think they became popular in Italy, and because of that popularity, you see Italian coins. After the capital stopped making them, Italian coins still representing their solid eye with a star on them. So that's my theory and some of the research. It's fascinating stuff. I mean, they went from was it like what did I say, 529 to the 700s, so about 165, 166 years. And then there was a time where there was no lightweight coinage. And then in the 900s, you had a similar phenomenon where the main coinage was the histomenon, and all of a sudden a lighter weight gold coin called the Tartaron sprang up and was circulating in tandem with them. So you see the same thing start to happen a couple hundred years later. Um, so there must have been something that's a driver for this. I mean, nobody just makes stuff for no reason. It's necessity that drives the invention, and I think they were purpose made to pay a certain subgroup or something within the empire. And yeah, uh, I mean, I just think it's fascinating stuff. So if you want to read more about it, I encourage everyone to get the Howard Adelson book, Allison book, excuse me, um, from 1957. There hasn't been anything really definitive written since then. So, I mean, we're looking at that's a long time. Even for Byzantine references, that's a long time. So, there's some good videos out there. There's some good information, but overall, they're rare coin and they tell a really kind of cool story that is a giant question mark. And so it's something that I really like, and I keep an eye out for lightweight solid eye if I can find them at a reasonable price. At any rate, I think that's going to wrap up episode 13. I appreciate everybody's feedback and everybody listening. We'll keep an eye on those coins that are coming to auction and keep looking out for new and interesting stuff. And absolutely reach out if you have questions or if you have feedback. I love to talk about this stuff. It's what keeps me going between purchases. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys and talk to you guys on episode 14. Take care.